Welcome back to day 14 of online learning. We're going to continue our work with fractions, but before we start with our lesson, I want you to get your do now out from yesterday, the locating fractions less than 1 on the number line, and we're going to be going over that. This is your do now from yesterday, locating fractions less than 1 on the number line. So task A is to mark and label the points 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 on the number line, and to be as exact as possible. So how I would do that is I see that all the denominators are the same. They're all 4. That means that my whole is going to be separated into 4 parts. So I'm going to put a line down the middle and break it up into 2 parts, and then break up each side into another 2 parts to get 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. So this is 0, and then I would go 1/4 because moved one part of my whole, and then I would go a little bit more and do another 1/4 to show that there's 2/4, and another part which would be 3/4, and then I know that 1 whole is also equal to 4/4 because it moves and has 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and then 4/4. So 4/4 is equivalent to 1 whole. B is to mark and label the point 2/3 on the number line, be as exact as possible. So I would break up my whole, which is just 0 to 1, into 3 equal parts. Now I have 1/3, and then 1/3, and then 2/3. That shows 2/3 on the number line. And then it says mark and label the points 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, and 1/5 on the number line. Be as exact as possible. What I notice is that there's all different denominators. So my whole should be broken up into 2 parts, into 3 parts, into 4 parts, and into 5 parts on the number line. So I'm first going to break it up in half. And then I see that this is 1/2. Now I'm going to break it up into thirds. So into 3 equal parts. So this is 1 equal part, another equal part, and a third equal part. So this would be 1/3. And then it says 1/4. And I know that 1/4, just like we did up here, is that I could just break in half from 0 and 1/2. Because this is 1/2. So all I have to do is put a line between 0 and 1/2 directly in the middle to show 1/4. And just to make sure, I could also put another 4th over here to show 1, 2, 3, 4 to show that I have equal parts. Then my last one is 1/5, and we haven't done a lot of work with fifths yet. So what I'm going to do is separate it into 5 equal parts. So I'm going to put a line about here, about here, and about here to show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal parts. So 1/5 is right here. And what I'm noticing is that the smaller my denominator is, so 2 is the smallest denominator because 2 is less than 3 and 4 and 5, the bigger my fraction is because I'm breaking up my number line into less parts. So 1/2 is my biggest fraction, and 1/5 is my smallest fraction. fraction because I had to break it up into more parts. I wanted us to start going over our quiz from day 8, and I wanted us to be focusing on number 3. So take out your quiz from day 8 that you submitted, and number 3 is which fractions are located at point T on the number line. Choose 2 correct answers. And using what you already know, I want you to check your work, pause me now, and check your work and see how you would solve this. So I wanted you to check your work and see what answer you got and why you got that answer. So it told us to choose 2 correct answers. And that's one of those keywords that I see. So I know that there's going to be 2 answers down here that I need to be choosing. So it says which fractions are located at point T on the number line. So I would go through and see how many parts of my number line do I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 equal parts. And my T is 1, 2, 2 parts. So my fraction for T is 2/8. And I see that that's already an option down here. So I would X off 2/8. Because that's what it is located on the number line. But I need to be paying attention to my equivalent fraction. My fraction is yes 2/8, but it can also be something else on this number line. So what I'm going to do is plot each of these to see which one is also falling on T. So if I was to do 2/3, I would break up my number line into 3 equal parts. So about right here and right here, because those are 3 equal parts. And I would put 1/3, 2/3. And what I see is that that is not the same part where T is. So I'm just gonna X that out. And then it tells us to do 2/6. And what I need to do when I break up my numbers into 6 is first put it into thirds, into 3 equal parts. So we already have that. And then break it up in half in each. And then I also have these. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts. So then it says 2/6. So 1/6, 2/6. And again, that doesn't fall where my T is. So I'm just gonna cross that out. So I have one more fraction that I need to check. And that's 1/4. So what I'm going to do is break up my fraction, or break up my number line into fourths. So with a line in the middle, then a line in half, and then a line in half from 0 to 1/2. So what I see here is that 1/4, 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts, 1/4 would land right here where my T is. So my answers are 1/4 and 2/8. Now I want you to figure out for yourself, to the nearest 1/4 of an inch, how long is this pencil? And I'll bring it up even a little bit closer. Pause me now and think about what is the length of this pencil to the nearest 1/4 of an inch. So my pencil, if I was to draw a line, I would see that my pencil is closest to this line right here. And I see that it's 2, 1/4, 2/4, or a half, because those are 2/4 and 1/4 are equivalent fractions. And then 3/4. So the length of my pencil to the nearest 1/4 of an inch is 2 and 3/4 inches. My mixed number is 2 3/4 inches. So what I have here is 1, 2, 3 new pencils and then the pencil we had before. What I want us to do is plot this on our line plot. I want you to pause me and think about where would 2.5 inches, my first pencil, go on my line plot. I would put pencil 1 at 2.5. So I would put it right in the middle between 2 and 3. Pencil 2, where would I put pencil 2? Pause me and think about where I would put this pencil on my line plot. I would put pencil 2, which is 3 1/4. I'd go past 3 and 1/4. So I'd put that right here. Pause me and think about where would I put pencil 3. I would put pencil 3 at 2 3/4 inches. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and put it right here because that's 2 3/4. Now where would I put this pencil? I don't want to forget about the pencil that we had from before. Pause me and think about where I would put this pencil. I would put this pencil 2 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, so 2 3/4, and put it right on top of the other one. Notice how all of these are in line with each other. And then I would put, if I had 2 in line with each other. I need to make sure that my line plot is organized so that I know that there's one pencil that's 3 1/4 inches. There's 2 pencils that are 2 3/4 inches. And then there's one pencil that's 2.5 or 2 2/4 inches. So what we have here is the question, which of the following fractions is equivalent to 2? And it tells us to choose 2 correct answers. So it's asking us which of the following fraction is equivalent to 2. And remember that fractions are equal to 1 whole. So if it's 2, that means it's going to have 2 wholes. So I'm going to make 2 fraction bars to show 2. Now I want you to think about, how would I show 2/2 or 2/2 using a fraction bar? Pause me and think about how I would show 2/2. I would first make one fraction bar and break it up into 2 parts, like my denominator tells me to. And then I would shade in 2 of them. So I put 2 parts and shaded in 2, but that fraction doesn't look like 2 up here. This is actually only equal to 1. Because remember when we said that a number over itself is equivalent to the whole number 1. It's 1 whole. I have all of my parts shaded in, or all of my parts are complete. So let's do 2/1. So I'm going to make 1 whole and shade in 1. Because it's telling me to have 1 whole that I don't break up at all. But it's showing me that I still have another one. I need to have 2 holes that are not broken up at all. And what do I notice about 2 over 1? I see that 2 over 1 is the same as 2. Because remember, one way that we can show whole numbers is by putting a number over 1 and that equals itself. So 2 over 1 equals 2, 3 over 1 equals 3, 8 over 1 equals 8, and so on. Pause me and think about how you would show 8 halves. I would show 8 halves by making one whole and separating it into 2 parts and shading it in. So 1, 2. But right now all I'm showing is 2 over 2. So since my numerator is bigger than my denominator, I know that I'm going to have more than one whole. So I'm drawing another fraction bar, and I'm going to split it up into another 2 parts and shade in 1 half, 2 half, 3 halves, 4 halves. So right now I have 2 halves and 2 halves, which equal 4 halves altogether, but that's still not 8 halves, so I need to keep going. Make another fraction bar and break it up into 2 parts and shade in 5 halves, 6 halves, and I'm actually running out of room, but this is only 6 halves. So I now am going to add another fraction bar over here to show 7 halves and 8 halves. So altogether that is 8 halves when I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 8 halves is also equivalent to 4, but I'm looking for 2. But I know 8 halves is equal to 4 because it has 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, and 4 holes. So now I have my last fraction, which is 4 halves. So again, my numerator is bigger than my denominator, so I know that I'm going to probably have to go into another fraction bar, but I'm going to separate it into 2 parts and shade it 1 half, 2 halves, another whole, 3 halves, and 4 halves. Now I need to figure out which fraction is equal to 2. So I see 2, this has 2 holes, and this has 2 holes. So 2 over 1 is equal to 2, and 4 over 2 is equal to 2. Your have-to today is to be working on IXL for at least 20 minutes and to also be doing your highlighted skills that are about fractions. So the IXL skills that you should do for 20 minutes are all about fractions.